Day number 21, and returning to Crash Bandicoot. Crash Bandicoot 2 N-Tranced. N-Tranced plays a lot like Huge Adventure, and will mostly kind of be the same experience, outside of different level themes and different level gimmicks. And possibly being a bit longer, just because I'm less familiar with this game than I am Huge Adventure. I've only beaten this game a handful of times, whereas I used to speedrun Huge Adventure, so very familiar with Huge Adventure compared to this one. Probably I would even say I'm more familiar with Crash 3 than I am this game. And I wasn't super familiar with Crash 3. But I have beaten this game before, so it shouldn't be that bad. It is just get through all the levels similar to every other Crash game. Alright, I can be moving fast, and I need to do that or the shark will get me. Yeah, and this is different level gimmicks. Because of course we have to start off with having a level gimmick and not just doing a normal on-foot level. I mean, this level kind of an auto-scroller, so... And that's kind of most of the gimmicks in this game from what I remember. Most of them, they're kind of just these like auto-scroller levels where you don't really have too much input, really. Like, obviously this is different, but it's really not that different from like the sky levels in Huge Adventure. You're kind of just moving forward and waiting till the level ends. Just this time you're coming towards the screen rather than moving forward. Granted, though, it's not necessarily that we started with a gimmick, because I did choose to do that level first. But that's one thing that's kind of lame in this game compared to most other Crash Bandicoot games that I don't get why games started doing for a while. That was just really bad. But in all the other Crash games, up to Wrath of Cortex, you could choose any of the 5 levels in the first world that you wanted. So if you wanted to do level 5, then level 3, then level 2, then level 1, then level 4, you could. In this game, though, you only get ever, like, 2 choices at once. Yeah, you still have to beat all the levels in the world. You can't get to where the boss is and then just fight the boss. See, I can't move down right now. I'm tapping down, it's making the "you can't go this way" noise. So I have to come beat this level. But why couldn't I have just started with having the choice of any of these 3 levels? For some reason, games just started doing that at a certain point, like giving you less choices compared to previous games. Because Mega Man also started doing that. In 7 and 8, you can only choose 4 Robot Masters to start with, and then you do the next 4. Whereas all the previous games, you could just choose any of the 8 from the start. Kind of weird, but I guess it's not too big of an issue, because you have to beat all the levels anyway, so what does it matter what choice you get? You know? It's not like you can choose to do any level in any order in, like Mario 1, you know? So, I don't know that it really matters too much. I forgot the timer again! It has been 5 minutes. So I guess the only reason it kind of feels worse in this game that you don't get the choice is just because you did have more choice in the previous games. And because, I don't know, it's presented as if your choice matters more than it does. Because it looks like you're taking a different path, but if you have to beat all the levels anyway, then I don't get the point of making it look like you have a different path. Because in Mario World, you can choose a different path, and whatever path you choose, either the paths can converge at a certain point, and then you don't have to do the other path you skipped, or it could be a different way to the end, and you may have to do shorter or fewer levels or more levels depending on the path you take. So the choice in path you take in Mario World like has reason to be there, but it doesn't in this game, and I just don't get the choice. But yeah, and then this game also, not only does it take some stuff from Crash 3, we had a Pharaoh level and a desert level, but it also takes a tiny bit from Wrath of Cortex, mostly in the form of this ball level. There's going to be a couple of these, but I don't like the ball levels as much in this game as I do in Wrath of Cortex, because I actually do like the ball levels in Wrath of Cortex. But I don't like them in this game because since U-Screen is so small. Okay, that gap looked big enough to where I could just stand under it, but I guess not. Oh, I guess it wouldn't have mattered. But Wrath of Cortex, dude, really? Put an Aku Aku here? I guess there's ground down there, so it doesn't matter. Oh, do you start with a double jump in this game? Because I haven't beaten a boss yet, you don't get the powers after a boss. That's interesting. I don't know if there's another Crash game where you start with the double jump. In Wrath of Cortex, the ball levels, you can get a lot of speed, and you can go really fast, and they're just really fun to play. Especially when you know the layouts. If you aren't familiar with the level layouts, they're a bit less fun, because then you don't know how to progress through it. In this game, though, I find, since you have a much smaller screen, it's hard to tell what's going to be coming up. And they just put a bunch of nitros everywhere. So to me, it kind of feels like very stop and go. Just go a little bit, make sure there are no nitros, and then go a little more, you know? Because you can get a lot of speed. But it's trickier the more speed you have. And then I think this is part of why I tend to prefer Huge Adventure over this game. Even though I do think this game, I mean, still is. Like, gameplay-wise, it's still as solid as Huge Adventure was. I think my problems with it is, for one, the levels seem a lot shorter in this game. Like, these levels have been super, super quick. Whereas I felt like there was a bit more depth to the levels in Huge Adventure. But then it also just feels like, in this game, there's a lot more gimmicks that just kind of feel like auto-scrollers. Not only do you have auto-scroller levels, but you have gimmicks and non-auto-scroller levels that are still auto-scrollers. Whereas Huge Adventure pretty much had, for the most part, unless there's a level I'm forgetting. Well, okay, the snow levels had auto-scrollers in them. Other than that, you had the sky levels. There were, what, 3 of those in the entire game? And you had the 3 snow levels, and that was pretty much it for the auto-scrollers. Whereas this game, I mean, I guess there was an auto-scroller boss in Huge Adventure as well, but this feels like there's a lot less just straight-up platforming levels in this game, whereas Huge Adventure was mostly platforming levels, but it did have some gimmicks that kind of weren't as fun. The Super Slide is pretty cool, though, in this game. It's just, when there are bottomless pits and TNTs and nitros, it's not super useful. Definitely very fast. Kind of like just sliding on the oil, but you just can always do that instead of it having to be on the oil. And then you can see a lot more gimmicks from what would be in some of these levels in Crash 3 are used. Like a lot of the specific enemies and obstacles make a return, but in 2D form instead of 3D. That's pretty cool. I would have liked it if they did have a third 2D Crash game on Game Boy Advance that was more based on Wrath of Cortex. Because you had Huge Adventure based on Crash 2, and then this game based on Crash 3. But then there is a third Crash game on Game Boy Advance, but it's the, like, Crash Spyro crossover thing that I think is more so just a minigame collection and not really a platformer in the same way. It would have been cool if there was a third one that was... There was an actual trilogy of Game Boy Advance Crash games, and the third one was either based on Wrath of Cortex or just completely original. Yeah, I don't know that we needed 2 of these levels kind of so close to each other. Honestly, these levels aren't that fun. Because it's just kind of annoying to keep dodging the shark. And the grass slowing you down is just kind of annoying to play, not really super engaging. And in this level, we get to play as Crunch instead of Crash, and that maybe his hitbox is bigger. It looks like it's bigger, but other than that, it doesn't really change anything. But this would, I think, mark Crunch's first playable appearance. Yep, and then you just run to a barrel and die, and then I remember more so why the ball levels are just more annoying in this game than Wrath of Cortex. Just having to wait for the barrels is really slow, and sometimes, like, I don't think that momentum really worked there. Also interesting that the song is just reused from Huge Adventure. I don't think most of the music is. But it's also interesting that there's no real theme that these levels are reusing. I guess that's not true. I guess it's kind of a lot like Bamboozled from Wrath of Cortex, the first ball level. But it's not, like, super, super similar. It doesn't, like, look the same. The obstacles aren't quite the same. Whereas, like, even the, I guess the water ski levels aren't quite like the ones in Crash 3. Yeah, the thing about these levels as well is you also have to make sure you're going the right way. I think there's at least one of these levels where there's like multiple paths, and one just leads to bonus and one leads to the end of the level, and it's just hard to tell which one you're actually supposed to go on. I will say, though, I do think this actually feels a bit nicer to play with a control stick than I think it would if I was playing on D-pad. Even with a good D-pad. Okay, actually grab the crystal so I don't have to replay the level. I don't remember how many worlds are in this game, though. I want to say there are only 4. There were only 4 in Huge Adventure, and I think 4 makes sense. I don't think you're invincible to this lava if you have invincibility, though, and that just proves it. So that actually was worse to go for that invincibility, because then I felt like I couldn't jump on the boxes, because they would just break instantly. Which sometimes will draw back to having invincibility. Would have been perfectly safe, though, so... I guess these levels, though, are more so based on Wrath of Cortex, right? Because this is kind of like, Crash and Burn. Not fully, but, like, these enemies are definitely from Crash and Burn. I don't think there's an equivalent in Crash 2 or 3. Oh yeah, and you have the helicopter jetpack thing from Wrath of Cortex. Yeah, from my memory of like the boss fights and everything, I think it makes sense there's probably only 4 worlds in this game. Which, given that it has been only about 20 minutes and we should be near the end of the second world. That's pretty good pace. I do remember there are some annoying boss fights, though. This one seems fine. This seems just like, kind of the same as Dingodile. But I'm understanding kind of the pattern of this game. They introduce some sort of flight mechanic in the final level of the world, and then you just use that for the boss. Interesting, though, that they do let you keep your Aku Akus. Because I don't think you could in Huge Adventure. I think they take it away from you in that game. And then in Crash 3, I think they let you keep it. And then in Wrath of Cortex, you can't. So it's just very different for everything. Are you doing something wrong on those? Are you supposed to be able to climb up, or... No, I guess you just fall down if you stay on it too long. Kind of like, Oh, that reminds me a lot of Pac-Man Fever, one of the mini-games in that game. Which, Pac-Man Fever is a desperation game. If I just feel like there's no game I can do and I just have a lot of time one day, maybe I'll boot up Pac-Man Fever. But that is not viable like a lot of other games are. Might seem like it is, because I mean it's just a party game with 3 boards. Surely it's not that long. The problem is there is a story to Pac-Man Fever. So to beat the game, you do have to beat the story mode. Problem is the story mode's not really a story mode. It's just you keep playing the game until you reach the objective to complete the story. The objective for completing the story is to buy every minigame. And there are a lot of minigames, and you don't get tickets very quickly in that game. So... Oh, that's a terrible checkpoint. We have to redo the auto-scroller? There is one level, I think... I want to say maybe it was in Wrath of Cortex, maybe in Crash 3, that also had just like a really terrible checkpoint at one point. Now, I guess at the end of the level's right here, that kind of makes sense, but still. This is another one of these. Why are there so many of these levels? These are not very fun. Honestly, I'd prefer the water levels from Wrath of Cortex or Huge Adventure to these levels, because at least those levels are not auto-scrollers. I guess for the most part, I just don't care too much for auto-scrollers in general. It's not necessarily that these are, like, all that poorly designed, you know? They're fine. Because I just am not really a big fan of the concept. I like to schmoove, and I can't schmoove in this because I'm limited to how fast I can go. If I could schmoove, that's a different story. But I can't, so I don't like it. Oh, great. This is awesome. Another auto-scroller immediately after. Now this level, I don't really remember how it works. It's like you can shoot, right? And there's like the sun that's trying to get you. And you can like boost forward, but it doesn't like look like it's doing much. But like the sun is catching up to you, not really visually, but on the right you can see the meter. And so you kind of just mash B and then dodge objects occasionally. It's just such a weird concept that I kind of don't think works very well. Like, I kind of don't even really know what they were going for with this. Guess I shouldn't have taken that much damage, but if there's a checkpoint right here, it doesn't matter, really. If I die, I should be back restored to full health. Then this is definitely a level that's not, like, based on any other level. Like, kind of Crash Droids, but then really not. It's just so weird, though. Like, they should have... gone back to the drawing board on this one, I think. I don't really get the concept of what, like, we're actually doing. There's no heal boxes either, which is weird. It's like there were 3 checkpoints, like, kind of very close to each other, and then there's just, like, not been any checkpoints for the last quite a while, but then the level just ends. I don't get it. That's such a weird level design, I think. These levels are really, really short. Like, I'm honestly thinking maybe this will end up being quicker than Huge Adventure. Huge Adventure ended up being, what, like 43 minutes? Because I was like 3 minutes off my PB, I think. Okay, you can hold down to crouch. I need to remember that, because I keep trying to hold R to crouch. Because you can hold R to crouch, but if you have any sort of momentum, you will just instantly slide. And I feel like that's worse in this game than it was in Huge Adventure. I feel like you could land and with pretty decent certainty be able to crouch. In this game, it feels like if you just came from landing, even if you're standing still, you will just slide. So you gotta hold down, which is a little harder to do for me because I am on control stick rather than D-pad. Yeah, so it's been 27 minutes. Again, timer started 5 minutes late. So 27 minutes, if my Huge Adventure time was 43 minutes, we're only 27, and this looks like this is near the end of World 3. That's kind of pretty fast. I thought this game would be around the length of Huge Adventure. I just expected it to maybe be a little longer just because I'm not as familiar with it. But the levels just seem like way shorter in this game than in Huge Adventure, which is kind of weird. I honestly thought this game would have longer levels just because, you know, it's a later game, but I guess they just crammed so many ideas that they didn't have quite as much room for making as long of levels, which not necessarily a bad thing. I do just feel like when levels are too short, they kind of can feel a little bit more boring. Or at least just not fleshed out enough. Like, there are times when a game can have levels that are too long, but I also think levels can be too short, and I think that's why I've always preferred Mario World to Mario 3. Mario 3 plays extremely well. Maybe it's a little slippery compared to Mario World. Mario World is a bit tighter controllers, I think. They feel a bit better to me. But Mario World just has way more fleshed out levels than Mario 3. Mario 3, you play like any level. Like, no matter how fun the level is, it always just ends so shortly after it begins, it feels like. And that's kind of the vibe I'm getting with this game as well. I don't know how they really expect you to handle that section. Maybe bounce on it when it's TNT? I don't know. I thought some of these, like, moving platform sections and stuff would be a bit more awkward than they ended up being. There was some I struggled with a tiny bit in Crash 3. Oh, this boss is actually kind of sick. because Fake Crash follows your exact movements. So you have to lead him into traps while also not getting hurt yourself. Actually, kind of a really cool concept. I know there's a similar concept in Rayman 1. But I think that's kind of you're escaping Dark Rayman. I don't think you lead him into a trap or anything. Whoops. I need to figure out exactly what I'm supposed to do, because the arena's not that big. Whoops. Alright, so maybe I can just run past this. Yeah, and then I'm safe for a little bit. Emphasis on a little bit. Whatever. Should be fine. Alright, not too bad. Honestly, maybe could have been a bit more fleshed out of the boss fight, but it is a cool concept. It is weird, though, that, like, a lot of Crash games, that they have a specific, like, concept where you play as a different character. You always play that concept as that character. So, like, in Crash 3, all the Tiger levels, you play with Coco. All of the water ski levels, you play with Coco. Also, in Wrath of Cortex, any, like, the snowboarding and scooter levels, those are with Coco. But then in this game, you do the first ball level as Crash, and then the rest are with Crunch. I don't really get why. I kinda wish they had tried something more like Wrath of Cortex, where, you know, in Wrath of Cortex, instead of Coco just being for gimmick levels, that you could have put Crash in. Like, if they had actually tried making some sort of level where you do play as Crunch, and Crunch does play differently. Or even, like, normal Coco levels in this game. You do play as Coco for a few gimmicky levels, like that really weird space level. Other than that, every on-foot level is just Crash. I am not, like, super afraid of getting a game over, but I am kind of afraid. I still have quite a bit of buffer lives, but sometimes it is just really easy to lose a bunch of lives on one of these levels. I'd rather not game over if I can help it. But like with pretty much every other Crash game, a game over, all that's doing is restart the level with no checkpoint, and you have fewer, or your default amount of lives, which I think is 5 in most Crash games. Okay, I don't like how the game's, like, lagging in a really weird way. Like, I don't know, it's just, like, it's like, weird stuttering. I don't like that. But if this is the last world, I mean, I can just look. Yeah, N-Tranced, I believe, is the final boss. And yeah, N-Tranced. I got that right. I think Entropy is like the true final boss for if you were to beat all of the... Or if you were to get all the gems. But for the normal ending, just getting all the crystals, N-Tranced is the final boss. Which is actually really interesting that in this game, or in the GBA games, there are different final bosses. If you get all the gems. I don't think any of the other Crash games did that. I think it's just a different ending after you beat the final boss. Although I think in the case of Crash 2, if you get all the gems, you don't even fight the final boss. But then Crash 3 and Wrath of Cortex, I think you just beat the final boss and then you get a different ending. But in this game, Wrath of Cortex, you do fight a different final boss. It's just Entropy in this game, which is honestly kind of lame, because Entropy was a boss in other Crash games. N-Tranced is the new guy, you know. But then in Huge Adventure, it's a Mega Mix, which is a mix of all the other bosses in the game. So a mix of Cortex, Dingodile, Engine, and Tiny. So if you ever played Crash Team Racing Nitro Fueled, and you're wondering where the heck Mega Mix comes from, it's actually the true final boss of Huge Adventure on Game Boy Advance. That was one of the things I really, really liked about Nitro Fueled, is just they were not afraid to do just like any reference. Because for a while, there was definitely a period of time where like, people wanted to do like references to old games and bring back old games and things people liked. But they always wanted to just go for whatever was the most popular and the most recognizable. So I could have easily seen them trying to go for just doing, you know, just focusing on what was in the first 3 games and Crash Team Racing, since those were the 3 most well-known, the 3, or 4 rather, most well-known Crash games, the most loved, the, you know, original Naughty Dog games. But I'm really glad they did go all out and just do a ton of different references, even like very obscure ones like Mega Mix. And then also having the Nitro Kart levels as well was really cool. Especially because I still think Nitro Kart is a really good game. Even just playing the original. And is it Meteor Gorge? Is that the name of the level? Oh, great, another one of these levels. But whatever that level is, the like snowy one that's got kind of a lava in the center, that's my favorite race in the entire game of Nitro Fueled. And obviously in Nitro Kart as well. Just kind of sucks they didn't bring back the story mode from Nitro Kart. You only get the story mode from the original Crash Team Racing. But other than that, just having a bunch of characters from a bunch of different Crash games, even very obscure ones, and then also having the Nitro Kart races on top of introducing some new races. Some were good, some were terrible. But I think that was just really, really good. I think the only thing it was kind of missing, though, character-wise, like, it did have some obscure characters that were really cool to see, you know, Rillaroo, Walla Kong, Von Clutch, Mega Mix. I think the only thing character-wise it was really missing, though, is it didn't have the twins from Twinsanity. There is a reference to them in the game, in the level Mima's Nightmare. You can see a picture of them. in that race, but they were never added as playable characters, and I think that was definitely one they should have had. I think that was kind of an obvious one. You know, the villains of Twinsanity, which, you know, I'm saying he's kind of jank and everything, but a lot of people still really like Twinsanity. Especially compared to, like, Wrath of Cortex and the GBA games, I would say most people probably prefer Twinsanity. But still, I'm glad they just had all the content they did. I think my only other problem, content-wise, with Nitro Fueled is just that there was some exclusive content to the PS4 version, and that's kind of lame. That if I want the full content, you know, full extra race plus like 2 character skins, I have to specifically get the PS4 version. But at the time, I didn't have a PS4, and in fact, I've never owned a PS4. I have a PS5 now, so I wouldn't need to get a PS4, really. So at the time, I only had a Switch, so that was the version I played. Not like I could have gotten the version with all the content, even if I wanted it. But for the time I played Nitro Fueled, I definitely think I just much preferred to have had it on Switch. Just because I really enjoyed playing the game in handheld mode. I do need to figure out kind of my HD setup for games. But a lot of the Crash Racing games are definitely viable as well. I need to look into, like, Nitro Kart on Game Boy Advance, and maybe Tag Team Racing, kind of see about that game, because I don't know Tag Team Racing that well. Because I know that one's more of a story mode rather than a, or there's a lot of on-foot platforming sections rather than just the races, like in Nitro Kart and Crash Team Racing. But definitely, Nitro Kart and Nitro Fueled are both viable. And then if Nitro Fueled is viable, you gotta think the original's probably also viable. Because it's gotta be the same length, right? It's the same story. Only thing would be if the boss fights are maybe, like, difficult. Dude, I had the win, and I got too scared by the alligator. At least the alligators, they are kind of a pain, but they are not nearly as bad as those frogs from Drip Drip Drip. But I think the Crash Team Racing games really do just come down to the boss fights. Some of the boss fights can be, like, really difficult in, Alright, so I wasn't supposed to hit him when he got stunned. I guess I'll figure out a different strategy. Okay. Oh no, you are supposed to hit him. It's just visually really hard to tell, but he has 4 health. Now he'll have 3. Okay. But still, I don't think the boss fights are anything you couldn't just do over and over until you beat it. It's not going to be that difficult. Not impossibly difficult. Okay, well, I didn't know he was going to do that, so... This is the part I was most worried about when doing this game, is just this boss fight. Because I think there's multiple phases, I don't think you get checkpoints, and I think it's kind of annoying. From what I remember, I'm jumping way too early there. But we'll see. We have also hit 45 minutes just about, nearing 46, so this game did end up being longer than Huge Adventure. Which is definitely interesting, because I thought a lot of the levels were seeming super, super short, but then I guess they just got longer. Or maybe it's just because there are all the auto-scrollers. There are definitely a lot fewer auto-scrollers in Huge Adventure. There's only really the 3 major ones, and then the snow levels aren't that long. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think this is going to be a checkpoint. I think we just immediately fight the next phase. I do have to remember how to beat it. Yep, no checkpoints. That's what's really, really annoying about this boss fight. Is it only if you die on the same phase over and over you get the Aku Aku? That's, like, weird. Granted, it's not like there's ever really been boss checkpoints in Crash games. Because this is the only boss fight in the entire game that has multiple phases. All the other boss fights had only one phase. Dude, your hitbox is so tall. How are you supposed to... Can you, like, deflect them? That seems kind of strict to have such small projectiles in such large density, but your hitbox is just so big. Because I think the hitbox extends all the way up to the propeller. At least I'm getting better at this phase, but that's gonna kind of make this beginning phase just, you know, kind of an auto-scroller, and then you get to the actual boss fight. And yeah, I did think this was kind of gonna be what drove the time up. No, you can't deflect them. How on earth are you supposed to do that? That seems way more of a bullet hell than you would think for a game like this. The game clearly does divide it into different phases, considering you don't get the Aku Aku if you... Even though I have died after getting it the first time. This is weird. Very odd design choice, I think. I guess just see, can you hit him while he's doing this? Well, that can happen. Was that supposed to happen? I have no idea what just happened. Because I didn't die that first time I did it. That was very strange, but I'm gonna do it again, because it seemed like it could have worked. Yeah, I believe the Cortex in original or in Huge Adventure was way easier than this fight. And even Megamix isn't that hard. Because Megamix isn't really a boss fight, it's more of a chase sequence. No, I guess that was a glitch that was just not intentional. For you to be able to just spin into him so much that it creates a bunch of clones of Crash. Easy. I guess my next thing to see is just to see in that area that has Evil Crash, can you actually stay there and avoid all of his projectiles? I forgot what he was gonna do. If you can, that actually trivializes the boss fight a lot, but just not knowing what to do. I don't know, is it as strict as it seems, or is there an easier way to do it that I'm just not doing? And again, this is what's really driving up the time, is one, I'm losing focus and not knowing what phase of the boss I'm on, but also just being fairly unfamiliar with this fight. At least I get to keep an Aku Aku for this section of the fight. Oh wait, that time he just shot a ball. Okay, why was it a bullet hell before? Okay, it's just don't stay above him, kind of. Or, like, to the side of him. Okay. Okay, that shot didn't even do anything except... Okay, no, it did do something. That's so stupid. That game over screen, that's reused from Huge Adventure. That's the exact same game over screen. Okay, but what the ball did is it locked my controls and made me go to the lava. It kind of sucks that it hit you twice, though, because I feel like it shouldn't. It doesn't hit him twice. Why should it hit me twice? But okay, it's more about just knowing the positioning of the attacks and how they work, rather than it being a bullet hell. Kind of just the thing. But if I say over here, will he do like... Yeah, I'll do that shot so I can just kind of move over here. And maybe then I don't have to deal with the ball. It might be dependent on your position what attack he does. Because yeah, he's not doing the ball here. But then he did the ball there. But that looks like a different ball from what he was doing before. Now it's kind of scary because he's way up there and I have no idea what he's about to do. Another ball. Oh no, it's the same ball actually. Nope. That's just a problem with the screen crunches. I just can't tell what he's doing because I can't see him. You just gotta hit him quickly, though, before he has a chance to do any of his attacks, just be hitting him. Just is kind of annoying that your best strategy is to stay below him, but that's kind of what makes it harder to hit him, is if you're coming at him from below. And the fact that it's 5 hits is also pretty lame, but still. Because I think if you're hitting him fast enough, he's not going to do a second attack. Right? He's only going to stop if he's not getting hit for a while. So even if you have to hit him upwards, that's better than not hitting him at all. Yeah, that's definitely it. Just keep hitting him. Even if you gotta hit him the wrong way. I think that's it. Yep. And there we go. Crash 2 N-Tranced. That taking 56 minutes. That was 13 more minutes than Huge Adventure. It was still in my time frame of under an hour, though. Although I was thinking it was going to be more so in that, like, 40 to 50 minute range. Compared to over 50 minutes. But kid testers, that's interesting. How many games actually get kids to test the game? I mean, you might think if a game's made for kids, you would get kids to test it, but there's rarely ever a time when that's put in the credits. That's interesting. Anyway, but yeah, and really it would have been within that 40-minute range had I known how to deal with N-Tranced. But it wasn't that bad. It just took a while to figure out what they wanted. But once I figured it out, not that bad at all. And honestly, if I fought the boss again, I would probably beat it 3 tries at most. Because now I know how to do it. Yeah, and it looks like the credits are looping like they did in Huge Adventure, which is still very weird that the credits loop. I've never seen a game that has looping credits, and yet now I've seen 2. Granted, Huge Adventure or N-Tranced is based on Huge Adventure, so it makes sense it would reuse some stuff. It's just still weird to me. But yeah, so that is now 33 games done in 21 days. I will double check that number because I felt like we already hit 33. Maybe I didn't update it after Ninja 5.0. But yeah, and there still are plenty more viable games to do, and there are still plenty more Crash Bandicoot games to do. Which, I don't know, I might boot up Nitro Kart. Thing is, I just don't know how long Nitro Kart's gonna be. That's probably more towards the 2-hour mark rather than the hour mark like this game is, but we'll see.